from the employer as to the start and the date, the wages, the hours they're going to be working, and all these other things that that we ask for as far as W-2 and tax returns if they file for 2021. Now, if we're going to show you in the in the application packet, the form we have for employment verification if there is no other source to verify their income. Unemployment benefits, of course, it's 2 full months we're looking at, 60-day period for, and the current award letter to verify what their benefits would be. Everything is anticipated income. So what we do is we use what is current to project that anticipated income. For TANF and GA, General Assistance Benefits, we'd like to see the most recent DHS benefit letter. Social Security, SSI, same thing, most recent benefit letter. And we want the whole letter. Sometimes people will turn in just the first page that shows the monthly benefits, but there might be a debt owing to Social Security, and we'd like to see what the remaining balance is to project again what the future income will be coming to them. So if it says one on page 5, we need all page 5, all of the 5 pages. VA benefits, again, the most recent benefit award letter. Usually it comes out about December to show you and reflect what 2022 will look like. Workers' comp insurance, those kinds of benefits. Again, a statement from the insurance company verifying what kind of benefits they are receiving. Alimony, a copy of the court order or statement with the amount and the frequency. This is, again, countable income. Regular income, in-kind income, where it's somebody is helping this family to pay for something regular, cell bill, a cell phone, groceries. This is in lieu of another family who doesn't have that source of income helping, so that source coming in to help them. So it's to, kind of even the playing field. Child support, again, we want a printout from child support or any kind of, verification of what the child support income is coming to the custodial parent, and also we'd like a current court order for the child support. Retirement benefits, annuities, pensions, all of that, same thing. We want to verify the monthly benefit, and then we look at the last 2 months of what they received. Trust, any kind of verification for the trust administrator or any, those kinds of, if they're receiving disbursements, we'd like to see it, what they got over the past 12 months. Again, it must be current. And again, everything must be current. Self-employment, we're going to ask for a copy of their most recent tax return or how they file. Some people file quarterly, some people file every 6 months, annually, and then a business license and any kind of payments received from their clients if they do business in that form. Ledger sheet, proof of that they made taxes and fees, paid taxes and fees. We do have a self-employment form. Student status, again, the verification of whether a student that's 18 years or over is a full-time or part-time student, where the tuition expense, how it's being paid, if they receive financial aid, grants, or loans, and all of that. Okay. This is required for any adult, anybody 18 years and over that's going to be a household member. Okay. All assets include, but not limited to, and you see the list of things. And they must submit, if they have a life insurance policy, they must submit a valid copy of the life insurance policy. We see whether the life insurance policy earns dividends. And again, all of this is counted towards asset income. There is no asset limit. I mean, most of our families may not have a lot of assets, but want to let you know that there is no asset limit. Expenses, eligible expenses, and what to submit. That's a little bit higher. A little bit more, Madison. Okay, thanks. Medical expenses, if your household, or I'm sorry, Lauren, if your, what type of, if the household head, co-head, or spouse are elderly and or disabled and have unreimbursed medical expenses that they pay out of pocket. So they're elderly, that just like me, and they pay for medical insurance. That's an unreimbursed medical expense. Okay, so provide verification of what was being paid out for the last 12 months, so we can again project what the future will look like as far as expenses go. Child care, if you or an adult member of your household is employed and going to school and paying for child care, this is, we have a statement. We can get a statement from you, and the provider needs to provide a statement of what the cost is, what they're collecting from you. Also provide any verification of any child care reimbursements, and some families do have child care connection or whatever the agency is, the funding is that they get help for. Disability assistance expenses. So if a member of your household is disabled, other than head or spouse, and you must pay out-of-pocket expenses so that a family member can go to work. So you're the head, and you got to go to work, and your adult disabled child, they need to go to some place to have daycare. Those kinds of expenses may be considered for disallowances towards your income. Identification. You must bring in original Social Security. Remember, I talked about original documents. You must see an original Social Security number, or a document from Social Security. And Carrie, what is it? They provide you, with a printout to verify your Social Security number.
It's a verification letter, not the card, but a letter that states what the Social Security number is.
Okay, so other identifications for that we need to have is a valid picture ID, government picture ID. It could be if they have the gold star or what a real ID on the driver's license or their state ID that also verifies the birth date. So we need to verify birth date. We need to verify Social Security number. That is how the federal government, the HUD system, works to connect us to the HUD system, saying that this is a valid person receiving benefits, and that's how we get funds back. Marriage certificate, divorce decree, they can submit photocopies. What that does is verify what the name changes that have happened, because the birth certificate may not match what the ID shows, and may not match the Social Security. This document validates why there's a difference in the names. Okay, so legal names we need to know. Other forms that you will see in the packet, of course, Declaration 214. The 214 is the Declaration of Citizenship form. HUD 9886 form is a HUD required form for a release of information for certain items. We can send that out with our request form, and it allows us to get the information back. HUD 52675, debts owing form. It says that the family needs to know that when a debt is eventually, if they end up being terminated with a debt, they need to know that HUD, we have to report this to HUD, and that will be on the HUD system. So if they were to apply elsewhere, it might be held against them. It also allows us to look for debts owing. In this EHV category program, we are not using that as a barrier. If they owe debt to another housing agency, we are fine with that. Reviewed HUD is fraud worth it. That will be in the packet, and so we ask that you go over that with them. There's a physician's evaluation, health service evaluation, live-in aid certification. These are the reasonable accommodation part of the allowance part. So a person may not be elderly, so they don't automatically qualify for that disallowance from the income. But if they verify that they're disabled, then we can give them the $400 allowance for the head or spouse. Live-in aid, if they come with there is a person living with them that they need, that helps them to be able to live in the community, to be able to live sort of independently, then we have forms to verify because that's a reasonable accommodation. They're not a part of the household, but they are in the house. They're part of that, counting the bedroom sizes, all of that. Physician certification, certificate of disability. That is what we look at for again the allowances given. HUD supplemental and optional contact form. This is the HUD 92006 form. And again, this form has to be completed, and it is because HUD requires it. But a family does not have to give us an alternate contact. They can check the box that says they are not going to provide an alternate contact. They don't want anybody else to be contacted in case of emergency. We can't contact them or whatever. But we ask that you have them sign it to give you the right to talk to us and us the right to talk to you. That makes it a whole lot easier. Use of medical marijuana acknowledgement. Again, you'll see it in the packet. Medical marijuana is not allowed in federal housing, and because the feds still consider it a controlled substance. So regardless of what the state allows, we cannot allow a family to have medical marijuana used in their assisted unit. Statement of family obligations, we'll go over that. You'll see that just copies what the voucher has and the obligations that they must follow so that they don't get terminated. Family summary sheet goes together with the declaration 214 form, and they list all their family members and their birth dates and stuff, and we just match the legend on the form tells us what type of citizenship requirement they meet. Criminal history, sex offender certification are completed by all adults. We do not do a criminal history check, but we do require. We do a criminal history check as far as the methamphetamine part of it is, and then we go further to look if it was part of a assisted housing area. But the sex offender registry check we have to do. Request for assets form is attached, employer's form is attached, and what you should know about EHV. EHV is the enterprise income verification, and that is something that all PHAs have to use in the HUD system to verify their family's income once they're on the program. And this is to do with some of the government benefits and all of their employment income. So they need to know and sign the form that they understand we will check on this. Okay? I think we go to, factors of eligibility. At this point, this is what the income limits are. So if you have a family of one, their gross income cannot exceed $42,300, and this is what it is. Most of the time, the income limits are updated April 1st, but it kind of varies. It might be a little bit later in April, but it's somewhere around April. So Lauren folks will update this once we get the new information for this year. The payment standard ranges from, depending on the zip code, the payment standards range for the different areas. So you will see, the families will see once they come to the voucher briefing that what the payment standards are for the different areas. Low end will be Waimanalo, Waianae. The high end you'll see will be like Hawaii Kai, those areas, Kailua. Those areas are going to be in the higher voucher, higher end, the lower line. Okay. Here we come. Here's our application form. Okay, so it is 15 pages, but the reason why ours is so long is because we ask the questions and you've got to check the box. And so what we want to, and a lot of warnings are set for this form. So if there's any indication or any question of fraud, we go back to this application form and say, this is what you checked. Okay? Instead of you making a statement, you check the box too, and you're a test. You have attestation to say that this is what it is. Yeah. So go a little bit more. You have, if you go down lower, this would be head of household name and information. And we'd like to know if they're currently renting. If they're renting, what is the portion? And this flags to see if maybe they're getting some other kind of housing assistance. You cannot double up, so we want to make sure that they close out one end to get the other end. Yeah, which is us. There's a handful of pages that have household members. So this is the head of household. Fill up all the information on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is our column. And what we do and what I do is when I'm looking at an application, I'm checking the box to see if I've got that document. So if you see, is a Social Security card on file? Is an ID of birth certificate on file, 214? Or if 214 says they're permanent residency, then I have a copy of the registration card, and all those things on the right-hand side kind of gives me a checklist so that I know I've gotten everything in. A 9886 form, which is that authorization for release of information, and all those other things. And then if you go a little bit more, yes.
Can you also cover the question A, household members, list yourself and all other persons who will be a part of your household. And then it says, are you single and expecting your first child? That question gets, it's not completed on 90% of applications. But there's a question at the very top about confinement.
Okay, so what Terry is saying is that when you're filling out the form, if you're filling out the form for someone who is expecting a child, they don't have any other dependents, but they're expecting a child. So we need that's what you're saying, right, Carrie? That they can qualify.
That's all right. Right? Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that one question gets missed all the time. It's at the very top of page 2.
Okay, so very top of page 2. Lauren, can you go back up a little bit on the same page? Okay, you see on the very top, if it's a single person, yeah, and there's nobody else right now, that is part of your household, then this will qualify you for a bedroom size, yeah, because we count the family size to determine what the bedroom size is. And that's why when you see date of expectancy and you see on the right-hand column EDC, it's to do with that. Thanks, Carrie. Okay, so we go a little bit further and then it comes down to all the household members. So we give you a few pages of this in case you have, but first is spouse, then it's, then everybody else comes in to play.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
What is it, on your Teams or something?
You gotta go in
up there,
on the email.
Page 7.
Shana have the email?
Okay, now we are working on, now we're on the page where it talks about employment. So again, they fill out this information for any member of that's going to be in their household, any member that's employed. Okay, and working on call, expected to work in the next 6 months. And then what you see on the right-hand side, again, is for our office, is to verify that we have gotten the documents to verify this. So we've got either, tax verification, payment, pay statements, employer's report, and all of that stuff that we need. Okay. Again, all those that are working. Yay. Okay, this part. Information about anybody who terminated within the last 12 months. And they would verify, they would include who the person is and all of that. And if they did file federal and state, yes, and then we need to have that proof of that last calendar year. Right now we're at the middle of it, so if they haven't filed 2021 yet, we'll ask for 2020. Okay, here comes the other kinds of income. These other sources of income are what we call unearned income. So you have the TANF, the GA, all of that. They would check yes or they would check no. Please don't leave any boxes empty because then they are saying yes or no to whatever source of income. Okay, and then you look at all of that. We got all of that. Other. I always use the example. Might be Publishers Clearinghouse, and you chose to have it monthly. That's other income. In-kind income. Remember we talked about this for those who get help from another source on a regular basis. I don't have a child support agreement with the father of my child, but he gives me diapers. He gives me food. That is money to somebody else who does get child support and has to buy those things themselves. So that, again, evens out the playing field. Okay. How do you get by with getting cigarettes if you don't get some kind of money and you have no income? So how do you do that? This is the question we're asking. Is there somebody helping you? Okay, next page 10. And as you see, again, we do put the alert about giving false information. Okay, next part is providing care. Care provider, remember the child care. This is that area that family would complete to provide the information. Verification. The next question, does any household member own or is planning to purchase real estate such as land and or building, mobile home, etc.? And you might think it's kind of strange to ask, but HUD tells us we have to ask this. If anybody is, and because the purchase of property is actually it's an asset that we count. We're going to look at if there's any asset income coming from it. And of course, we're going to question, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? Yeah. Okay. Assets. Regular assets that you see. Checking accounts, savings accounts. If they close an account, if there's accounts in the children's name, if an account in the children's name, and grandfather who's not living in that home with them, that's still an asset. So we need to, you need to have them list all of that and verify it. Then we got the list of all the other kinds of stuff, like, life insurance, stocks and bonds, and all those other things. Again, check yes or no to any of what they have, other than the savings and checking accounts showing. Okay, a bit more. Okay, so H is for annual people, the people who are already in the program. So we go to I. Do you have a live-in aid? And this, again, is where it comes into play, where that physician's evaluation, those things, verifying that a reasonable accommodation should be approved for them to get a bigger bedroom size voucher so that they can accommodate the live-in aid. Have any adults or any other members or adult members of their household use any other social name? And this is for Social Security purpose. So again, when I wasn't married, I had a different name, so I would put my maiden name on this part. And that's so that we make sure that if there's a discrepancy, we know why. We can go back and say, okay, this is what we got. Can you, verify, or you have to go back to Social Security and do a little bit more work for us. Okay, have you or anyone been in your household ever been arrested for criminal activity? Put yes, give the information, but this is not a barrier. Just answer the question as it asks, and we will. We are not looking at criminal history, except again, we're going to look back at drug kind of information to see if it makes that person ineligible. L is a barrier. Unfortunately, it is a required barrier that if anybody in your household or you or anybody in your household is subjected to lifetime sex offender registry. Now, the head of household may not be on the registry, but an adult brother might be. And so you have the family has a choice. If we should take that guy out, so that's one of the options that they can do. But we do check on this for every adult. M, have you or any adult household, any member of your household sold, transferred, or gave away any business or asset in the last 2 years? And it may not be a question that is actually that uh, important now because a lot of people wait a long time to be on the waiting list, but some waiting lists are very short. And what happens is a lot of times in the past, in the olden days, people would transfer, sell, or give away anything to get the Section 8 voucher. So this is still a question that has us ask. Have you or any member of your household live in public housing and receive rental assistance Section 8 or supplement? That they need to answer. And then as far as if they've ever been evicted, and then again, this connects to the possibility of having that drug history. Yeah. Okay. It's not a barrier if they owe money. We're not using that as a barrier. Okay. The next one in P, if there's any children who have been DOH has Department of Health has found that any of the children have elevated blood level. We have to follow up on that. Q, special needs. Does anyone in your household claim mobility, visual, or hearing impairment, or special needs? We like to help them as much as we can. So whatever data we can get and whatever accommodations we can give, this is the area that we will look at to see if that we need to help them we can help them in any way. Medical expenses, again, remember we talked about the medical expenses. This is the area that you would list some of the medical expenses. And you got more, list them up below, put another page. That'd be fine. Okay, again, all this legal things and saying warning, warning, warning. I certify that all this information is true and to the best of my belief and my best and ability. So they would sign, head, spouse, any adults, all the adults would sign this. Okay, go a little bit more down. And the end of that last page, our office signs it. So just to let you know. We certify we went through all of that and we got the information. This page is a translation statement. We just need to know if somebody else helped them to fill out the form. We do have a few translated application forms. So if you do need a translated application form, please reach out to Doris and Wendy. We have about 5 different translated forms. Okay, so we can always provide that for you.
And Lord,
Okay. Again, this is the 92006 form. They have to fill this out. They fill this out, and if they name you, which that would be awesome. If you look at line 4, name of additional contact person or organization, they fill that out. They put the reasons why, and then they sign it. If they check the box at the bottom, check this box. If you choose not to provide the contact information, then we cannot contact you for anything. We need to get this is their consent form. Okay, so very important. They have to fill that out anyway, but a good way would be to allow us to contact you and vice versa. Okay, this is a medical marijuana form. So again, it's considered a controlled substance, and so it cannot be allowed for use in the assisted unit. Family obligation, the same as family obligation, we talked about this. This is it exactly mirrors the voucher. So this is just saying, again, one more time, family, these are your obligations that you don't follow can result in termination. Reporting requirements, they are to report changes within 10 days to our offices. One big important reporting requirement is until the HAP contract is executed, lease and HAP contract is executed, they must report all changes in their income, because if they were up until it's approved, it is not they're not determined as a participant. So we have to look to see if they're income eligible. So please report to our staff if there's any changes up into Lisa. And EIV is again that system that we have to report to, the HUD system that we have to report to. So have to acknowledge that they received the guide. Okay, this is the summary sheet, and then again, if you look at the bottom of this, the legend goes with the Declaration of 214. The citizen, permanent residency. Yeah, this is the 214 form. Yeah, go ahead. So for every person in the household, you need a Declaration 214 form. All children, the parent or the person in charge of their care will sign and check the box at the bottom. If you go down a little bit more, Lauren, on that, if you see check box on left if signature is of an adult residing in the unit who is responsible child named on statement above. And they must sign it for the child. Child is not a responsible person for this. And then it tells you what acceptable documents if it's going to be not a citizen. So we need the registration card or all of those any of the other document I-94, and then we have to see the annotation as to what the reason is. For Section 8 program, not everybody is eligible for the program and it's based on their reason to be in the country. So if they're here in the country just on a student status or working, they may not qualify. So that's why we need to look at
They have to have,
yeah.
So eligible immigration status is permanent residency. So any other kind of visa is not acceptable. If they have a student visa, a tourist visa, or a work permit without permanent residency, then the individual is not entitled to receive housing subsidies.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on from this. If you have any questions, Wendy and Doris can help you. Okay, so this is the form. This again. And we give more than one because usually there's a couple of people in the household. Okay, this is again the 9886 form authorizing the release of information, and this is a HUD form, so it is required that the family complete it. So if you go to the back of this page or this form, you will see that all adults need to sign it. This one is the debt owing form, and this is it serves two purposes. One of which is saying that you authorize, well, all of which is saying that you're authorizing the PHA, which is us, to get information from HUD whether there's a debt owing to another housing agency, and to report to HUD when there's a termination and there is a debt owing at that termination. So we will not hold. We have eliminated the barrier for anybody who owes money to the public housing agency for initial eligibility. We can, though, and it's been clarified that we can actually have the family then work out a payment plan once they're on the program with the housing agency, or with our housing agency at least, if they owe us money. Okay, so that's 2 pages, and each adult will sign one of those forms. So then again, there's a couple of forms in there. Okay, criminal history, sex offender certification. Each adult completes this, and again, we need the authorization to go and get this information. Failure to give us the consent will disapprove the person's application. So they fill this out, they ask questions, and there's a back page. Okay, we tried to take all the barriers off, so hopefully, even though they have a history, they won't be held against them. Verification of assets. Remember, we talked about that form. So that is a form if they don't have any bank statements they don't. This form can be used if you can get it online and print it out. You can print it out for them. That's fine too. This using this form may cost a fee, so we try to find every which way we can to get that information without having it be a burden that way. But this is available for use. Okay. Next one is employer's report form. And again, if there's no pay statements, the employer can complete this form for us, filling out what the rate is and all of that. But more importantly, I think it's used when it's a new employment. You know, they just started a job, so there is no pay statements yet. So this will help us to.
Or if there's it's also useful if there's a change. For example, if somebody was working 40 hours a week up until a month ago, and then their schedule has changed, so they're part-time. In that case, providing the pay stubs wouldn't be reflective of the person's actual earnings because they used to work full-time. So this could be used if there's a change in employment conditions.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Gary. Okay, that's just the back side. And this is the whole list again of things that we require. So we went over that in Lauren's list. This is the same thing as what Lauren provided. So same. Okay, so this last form is a services fee request form, and which is somewhat to use internally. What PIC it has some funds for is to help with the LEP part, so housing search and those other things, application fees, rental insurance. So your family would go through them for this area. They also have, and we reimburse them. But the bottom area is transportation and moving. We heard that there is a burden on some families to, get, especially the vets, to get them moving from wherever they are at to another location. So that is, they can have some funds for that too. Okay, our staff will cover security deposits, utility arrearage, and utility deposits up to $3,000. So if you can help us by finding out if a family cannot come up with that amount of money, or with the security deposit and all, then we'll be prepared to help the family. But again, it's up to $3,000. So if they find a place in Hawaii Kai and rent is $3,500, then and the security deposit is the same, then all we can cover is up to $3,000. So they have to find a way to get the difference. Also, if there's utility arrearage or utility deposits that they need to pay for, and which is a barrier to them getting into the unit, we can help. But again, if the security deposit taps out all the money, we won't be able to help that part because there is a limit. And the limit is so that every family that receives a voucher has a chance to these service fees. It's not like a bottomless pit. There isn't a limited amount of funds in that services fees category. So that's why we had to make these limitations. Okay, and if you look at the form, it tells us what we need from the parties involved.
Thank you so much, Jane. That's the complete application packet for everyone. We will again give an opportunity for questions to be asked at the end of this training session. At this time, I'm going to see, do we have Josh Roach on the line?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you so much. We're going to just briefly show you guys where to access and how to complete the EHV assessment and HMIS for anyone who's not going through the victim service providers. And then we will also just briefly show you where to upload the EHV eligibility documents under an HMIS.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren. As she mentioned, my name is Josh Roach. I'm the training specialist with Partners in Care. And so I'm going to walk us through the casual input of the EHV information, a quick overview of how to upload documents, and I'll show you a few quick tips and tricks when you're in the system. So this is, of course, set up for folks that do have HMIS access. If you do not have HMIS access, you can reach out to me directly. My email will be in the chat. And I will rectify that for you at that point. So as you can see, we are already logged into our system. We are going to be under the role of case management, which is going to be the most basic one. You can see that here. And we're going to be using our faux client test 33 Smith. So this is just to avoid sharing personally identifiable information. So to begin the EHV process, we will click the case management. Thank you, Daryl. And then we're going to look at the very bottom here, the emergency housing voucher. So when you click this, it's going to bring you to the files and documents section. The first part you're going to see is a list of the required documents for the EHV eligibility. This is great because you should be able to see right away what you need and not go any further until you have these documents. That's what I would suggest. The document guidance here is right below, so you'll see an explanation. If you don't understand what each one of those required documents is, there's just a quick blurb to give you a quick explanation of what that document may be. As you scroll down, the very first phase is going to list the documents that are uploaded for this specific client, okay? So you will be able to see what you have and make sure that they are all there. You can see that there is a number there of 12. So to move on to phase 2, you've got to make sure you have these documents, okay? And we'll wrap back around and show you guys how to upload those documents to make sure that that's clear. So scrolling down to the bottom at phase 2, we're going to be using this green circle button to complete the EHV assessment, excuse me. And that's going to open up a pop-up window, which is going to take us into the new HMIS Add New Client system here. So the first part is looking up your client. Okay, we're going to check for duplicates here. All right. Oh, this brought up a lot of people. Let's see here. Donde está my test, Smith? Let's see. Why is it doing that? Well, this is very odd. Okay. Well, we'll just slide over and be test ABCD. Perfect. So at this point, it will automatically populate the information that's in the system for your client. You're going to want to go ahead and just verify that this information is still correct. You can make edits if you need to at this point. Here we have contact information. Okay, this stuff will not appear. This is, unfortunately, my test client is considered a minor, I believe. Make sure your date of consent is updated. That, of course, is good for 3 years. And then we're going to click Save and move on to the next section. So as you go through the assessment, you're going to be walking down these little bricks here on the left-hand side. All right. So this is just going to show the family members that I am, excuse me, associating with this assessment. I'm going to go ahead and click Save to move on to the next section. Here you'll have the enrollment entry date. That's important. If you are entering this a day or so after, please make sure you edit your entry date there. Here we have the emergency housing voucher program, and the provider will be my organization. I can also assign a case manager. I highly suggest doing this. This will connect the case manager directly to this enrollment. And then click Saved. Okay, we want to leave this restrictions shared. Oh gosh, bless it. Oh, technical difficulties. Okay, let's do this one more time, guys. It's not going to let me do that because that family's already enrolled. So there's a lot of things in the system that will keep you from making multiplications or duplicates of enrollments. That is, of course, one of those. So we're going to try this one more time, guys. Okay. And it's still not giving me the client I need here. My apologies. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Let's try these guys here. Okay. Brilliant. Oh, we have a lot of things here that we just have to add in. Okay. So as I said before, we are verifying this information. If you have information about it or more information that is there, I suggest adding that in there and updating as needed. Okay, let's move on. Thinking quickly on our feet here, just rolling right through. This is our family. And again, we're back to the spot. So emergency housing voucher as the program and my organization as the provider. I'll be insured to assign a case manager and we're going to keep moving. Perfect. So once we get right through there, you're going to have the ability to choose the family members in the enrollment. So it is, of course, possible that test client 4 came in with the EHV with test client 6. Either way, we're doing that. This is where we're going to be adding these family members, okay? Each one of these family members that you add will add assessments to this process, and you will see that once we add these two. All right, so this is the beginning of the actual EHV assessment. So you are going to be copying basically what you have done into this. So have all the required documents been uploaded to HMIS. When I click yes, it's going to allow me to continue. If I click no, I automatically will get a notification that these are required. Okay, so the system won't allow you to move forward if the answers are not correct or part of the system. So here we're going to make sure that this information is here. All right, and that's this number here. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, give me my partners in care. Okay, not going to do that. Let me grab my partners in care org. Whoops, hello. I'm a clickety-clacker person, so here we go. All right. And of course, my contact phone number, and of course, my provider email. So we scroll down. Is the household porting from another public housing authority? Okay, we answer these questions. It has an asterisk next to it, so it's going to require you to answer these. Please make sure you pay attention to these alerts. Please do not complete the application if any of the following applies to this individual or household. These are going to be tips and tricks for you so you're not wasting your time. A member of the household is subject to a lifetime registration requirement under state sex offender registration program, or a member of the household has been convicted of manufacturing or producing crystal meth on the premises of federally assisted housing. These warnings are set up for you and your convenience, so please don't skip them and just run right through it. So answer the questions as they best apply to the individual or household. Select the description that best applies to this individual. So here you're choosing whether it's an individual or families who are homeless, individuals who are at risk at becoming homeless, attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, etc., or families or individuals that are recently homeless. So these are 4 different categories. Before City and County took over EHV, we only had 1, which would be the recently homeless. Now we have 4. So depending on your client's situation, the questions are going to be different. So please make sure you're paying attention to this and choosing the correct situation for your client. All right, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and move along with the individuals are homeless, excuse me, the individual or families are homeless. So here it does give you the definition of homeless, an individual or family who lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. This is, again, just for your information. So the next part, detailed information on household eligibility, can be found in section 8. So we are referencing your assessment. So does the household meet the homeless definition above? And then we need to go through and answer all of these questions from the EHV, okay? Again, they are all required, so you won't be able to move forward unless you answer every single question. Answering these questions as well will change the questions that are brought up. So please make sure you are aware of that. I'm just adding some stuff in here. These parts are not required. I'm sorry, I totally should have mentioned that because I'm not paying attention. I'm being a dodo brain here. So this is the LEP section. My apologies. The LEP section is not required for you to fill out. You'll notice there's no asterisks next to anything. That's because LEP is going to come in and fill this in after. So please disregard these and scroll to the next section to click Save. All right, now here would be where I can connect services to this. However, I do not believe we are connecting services to this. Correct. So at this point, you would save, and the workflow should come up as complete for Mr. Computer. There it goes. So now my workflow is complete. So I can click Done at the bottom right. And when I come back to my client's main dashboard, where are we here? Should show it there. There's our emergency housing voucher right here. So we now have this client enrolled in this emergency housing voucher. Now, if we need to make edits to it, so we're going to come back here. We're going to click Case Management and the Emergency Housing Voucher. Okay, scrolling back down, you'll see here to the right, there's an EHV summary. Now, normally we would click that purple button right below it. It would take us to a list of the clients that are enrolled in the EHV program, and you will be able to select an action gear to the left of your client's name and make the edits that you need or see fit. I'm not going to click that today because it's protecting privacy of other people in the system. But that would be how you edit the EHV summary that you've just entered. Now, to make a full circle back and to just show you quickly how to upload documents, this is a very simple process. We're going to literally just click Case Management and Documents and Photos. This is going to bring you to our Files and Documents page where you do have the ability to upload documents. So click Client Documents. Okay, at this page, you're going to see an Add New button at the top of your screen. And the list of different types of documents will be here viewable to you now. So there are several different types of documents. Please make sure that you choose the correct title document with the document that you are uploading. Oftentimes you will see a document that is, a bus pass under the Landlord Incentive Agreement Addendum. Either way, just pay attention that you are uploading the correct document. So at the bottom, you'll see there's EHV prior to these words. That's because these are the EHV documents. And you will notice that there is a 1 and a 2. So there is a second page. So please don't be frightened when you don't see your EHV document, because it perhaps is on the second page. When I'm ready to upload a document, I'm going to click the check mark to the left of this. Here is our a browse section. So we'll click the browse button. It's going to pull up my desktop. Where's my quick images? I've got this little image picture here, and boom. All right. So now we have our picture of the document inside the system. Okay. We want to make sure that it is shared. I also do have the ability to make a distinction between electronic file and paper file. The difference, right, is that paper file is a physical document that I hold in my hand. An electric file was an email that I saw. So if it is required to have a physical document, I would suggest making sure that it says paper file and then click Save. At this point, you'll be able to see the documents here. You'll also see them on the main dashboard, of the client. They're listed right here. If I want to view this document, there's a button right here, View File. And there it is, the mighty master himself, the medical expense declaration. There he is. So that's how you upload a document. Any questions, comments, or concerns, please direct them to me at my email. Happy to support in any other way I can. And I believe that's pretty much the process of the EHV assessment entry.
Thank you so much, Josh. We really appreciate that. That was very in-depth and thorough, and that's perfect for what we were looking for. Again, anybody who has any questions about this or other parts that we've covered so far, we're almost there to the Q&A session. I'm just briefly going to share my screen one last time to go over the assessment that is used for victim service providers. I will also, before I share my screen, I'm also going to just drop it in the chat so that anyone who is a victim service provider and will be using this assessment, that is the link for you guys to be able to access it. And just sharing my screen now so that you can all see what this looks like. Again, anyone who's not a victim service provider will go through exactly what Josh just shared. This is only for victim service providers for DV or human trafficking victims. So this is the link. It will take you to this assessment. Most of the information is pretty much the same. There's one that's a household unique identifier. This is so that we don't have to use any of the client's confidential information, like their name, for example. So this is entirely up to you and your agency, what you put in there. And then the rest of the details will pretty much be the same. If they're porting from another PHA, they would just go through the city and county. So if this answers yes, please just have them directly contact the city and county so that they can go through referring them to us that way. At this time, the only other thing that I wanted to mention is that we will be holding office hours. We're still narrowing down that schedule for the office hours. We've gotten some requests that it be in the afternoons on Fridays, so we're looking at doing that from potentially 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. every other Friday beginning April 8th. And then we are also going to figure out a date and time for the weekly provider meetings. Likely this will have to start in the morning or late morning just because it will be for all providers to join, unless you guys request a specific time that you're available outside of the weekly meeting, because that will be for us to cover all clients who are applying for the emergency housing voucher program. The last scheduling is if anybody has additional training requests for sessions like these, please just go ahead and direct them to myself. Shoot me an email and let me know if you're requesting an additional training. Just like this, it will cover the same information if you missed it or if you need or would like to go over this information again. Both today and yesterday's training sessions have been recorded, so we will be posting them to the Partners in Care website if you don't want to do another training session. At this time, unless City and County has anything to add, I would like to open the floor for question and answers.
No, nothing
Madison.
for us. We're here to answer any questions.
Awesome. Madison, if you want to do what we did yesterday and just call on folks as they raise their hand and then go through any questions that have been asked in the chat, that would be much appreciated.
Yep, to kick that off, I see Val has a question.
Hey guys, I actually have a few questions regarding what to submit to complete your review. How it says Social Security documentations, the whole letter. What if a client is a rep payee for another client who does not live with them or is in foster care for like foster adults, daycare, how they're just the rep payee, then they transfer money from one account to pay for the caregiver? How does that work with submitting documentation? That's my first question.
I believe if, and I don't do this on a regular basis, but I believe there is a way to verify that the person is a rep payee. So if we can get that verification from Social Security or whatever in the documents they send, benefit letters or whatever, we'll take that and it will be counted against them.
Okay, awesome. My second question is for child care payments. Does that also include like Boys and Girls Clubs of Hawaii, how every intercession it costs money to send the children there? Does that kind of child care count? Do we have to submit the receipts?
As long as the child is 12 and under, Carrie?
Yeah. But what we want to do is we want to verify the cost of if possible, anticipated childcare costs. And I guess receipts could be a way of trying to guesstimate what that is. But if there if there are besides for the summer, let's say there are periods where the child yeah, we're gonna try to anticipate the total annual childcare expense for
Yeah,
the
so
next
if there's
12
a
months.
pattern, if there's a pattern of, so those participants we have on the program, if there's a pattern of having childcare expenses for the summer, for spring break and all, we do count it. So it's good to keep the receipts. If they have it, it's good to verify it. We'll
Okay,
project it
awesome.
as an expense.
Does that also include their yearly membership as well, since it's like a after school,
No,
technically daycare?
no, no, no. That is not
Okay.
covered under the HUD regulations.
Okay. And then I'm so sorry, guys. My third question, um, I know there's certain things that you will take in lieu of identification. Does that also include like a copy of the tax returns where it shows the name, the date of birth, and the social security until a letter can be submitted from social security? Because of the whole COVID and making appointments, it's kind of a lengthy process, and we went through this with the HPHA EHV. Like there's certain things that were accepted until it was received. I mean, you know what I mean?
If it's there are certain things that that HUD has clarified we can accept as verification of their social security number. So they can get instead of the actual card, they'll send them an email or some kind of notice that maybe not email, but some kind of notice that this is your number and we're going to send you a card or something to that effect. But it doesn't verify their birthday because Social Security cards and Social Security award letters do not indicate birthday. I mean, that's not part of their verification system. Yeah.
Would a
So
medical record from their doctor for their birth date, like stating their birth date, their name, their social, and all of that, would you folks accept that for verification of their birth date?
um, if I were to answer that honestly, I would say no. Only because when I go to the doctor, I don't show them any of those things. So I don't think they ask for those things. So they can't verify that they've seen the original. So no, I would not accept that.
Okay, got it.
I wouldn't accept that either, for the same reason I wouldn't accept like a copy of the 1040 as verification of a date of birth. It's because it's self-reported. Like
Okay,
when you fill out your 1040, you're reporting the birthday yourself. And I would think the same thing would go with hospital records unless they saw the actual birth certificate. So what the regulation says is that we need an unaltered verification issued by a government agency.
Yeah.
okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple more questions regarding the, I guess the what part is this? This is page 9 of 15 of the application, where it's, you know how you explain and you break down what is your household members receiving income, and it has others, and you stated up like how can you buy cigarettes and stuff like that, so like in-kind income. What
Correct.
if I have clients that bum cigarettes on a regular basis from random people? Is there like a specific verification form that I have to submit, or just
No, no,
explain that?
no, no, no. Just explain that.
Okay,
That's not regular income from a person, a source. Yeah.
okay,
That's um irregular irregular goodies like candies from anybody. So we won't count that.
okay, got it. And then my next
So
question is actually for Madison, Lauren, Josh. Is there going to be an assessment printout like the HPHA one that we can go over with our clients, check yes, no, yes, no?
So the HPHA one was actually removed from the website because there were folks that were going through it and just uploading it to HMIS.
Oh,
And it's a technical like CES step for us to be able to have that client submitted as an applicant to the spreadsheet. So if the assessment isn't completed directly in HMIS, then we don't get notified that that is an applicant. So to mitigate that, we've since removed that option for HPHA, and we didn't create that option for city and county, so that everybody goes through the same standardized CES process.
Okay, but I mean, like to answer the questions with our client, like beforehand because technically everybody's supposed to answer the questions and then go in and do the assessment. Like that's normally how it works when you do a program enrollment, whether it's no matter what program it is. You know what I mean? But is there like, can we get an email after just stating that, because like he said, there's there's HPP, there's homeless, there's DV, there's different questions that will pop up. I mean, is there something that we could get as a tool to help us with the assessment?
Yeah, do we have anyone from CES team who wants to speak on this at all?
Hey, I'm here, Lauren. This is Morgan. Well, I actually don't. So right now, no, we don't have that. That's not something that has been created. I would actually ask Josh, do you know, at the moment it's completing it in HMIS. You'd want to be at a computer or on your phone, or you can access HMIS. There's not a paper form to read off of currently.
Okay, got it. Then I just have to go through the process to figure out what is the next questions and stuff like that to ask my client, technically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then my last question, guys, sorry, last one, I promise. If my client is leasing in place and there is, that emergency housing voucher services fees request form, and then the second page, it states like security deposit payments will be sent to. If they're already leased in place, I'm assuming that's where we would put our agency that had paid out the deposit, or are the landlords responsible to reimburse us the deposit and accept your folks' deposit?
No. If a deposit is already made, we're not going to repay it. This is
Okay.
for people who actually don't have anything to put down, to put down for a new unit.
Okay, got it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, and then I think we have a question from Jessica.
All right, I put it in the chat as well. I just want to know if a certificate of naturalization will work in place of a birth certificate.
Oh, definitely. That's a citizen, so no
Okay.
problem.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it does verify birth date. That's what you're asking, yes. Awesome.
It does, yes.
Perfect. And then we have another question from Jessica Oda. She had to jump off, I believe, but she wants to know, is it possible to include a sample certification form for the VSPs? This requires the VSP to certify that the client is a survivor and allows the CES team to verify the information.
That would be like as a like included in, I think she was talking about including that in the documents, like the listing of documents for VSPs to upload, which I think would be really helpful. It would just be an additional document. It might even include their consent forms as well, Lauren.
Yeah. Sorry, I was reading another question at that same time, so I didn't get it if that was a question directed towards me.
I think, yeah, maybe we can talk about it with Jess when we meet with the victim service providers.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually just messaging Morgan that as well, Jess. I'm going to be reaching out to you today after this training to reach out regarding scheduling for the victim service provider training with CES as it relates to EHV, and then also about the consent form. So maybe we can touch base on this at that time as well.
Okay, and then I think Jennifer had a question, and then Val.
Hey, this is so in regards to the lease in place, so if a client has a lease in place, they're approved for the city EHV, do you guys require a but and they're on a month-to-month lease agreement. Do you guys request that the landlord do a 12-month lease for your guys' program?
Yes, totally new lease that has to match the conditions. That has to match the dates for the HAP contract.
I see. Okay. And then the second question, because we're an access point and I've been fielding a lot of calls. These folks have no income that are calling. So what I mean, they have to have some sort of income or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
And you know why we can say no with force, because the VA, the vets, they have, many of them have no income, and when you hear about them, they buy, cheat, or steal. I mean, that's how they survive. So yeah, they don't have any income at all.
We just go over if they do have any income, they have to provide all of the documentation. But if they don't, they can report that they don't have income.
Right. And then we're going to, of course, grill them to ask them, how do you survive without income? Those kinds of things. Yeah.
Perfect. And then Val, I think you had a question.
Sorry, one more question. So like Jen was saying, we're getting all these calls. I'm getting calls from old clients, new clients, HPP, literally homeless. Like, I mean, do I still refer most of them to outreach that, you know what I mean? Like that call for assistance. Like if I can't get them into my HPP, like if it's not a prevention, like do I just keep referring them to, like a lot of people have gotten the letter, a lot of people have shared that, oh, there's a new Section 8 coming out. Like where exactly do I send people on a case by case? Like for certain HPPs, I know I could assist, but as far as everybody else, is there a specific place for me to send them?
So everyone's directed to different CES access points. So I know ASI is one of them. At that point, anybody who's determined that they're a good fit, then they would go through, we would just ask that the access points help them go through the workflow, starting with the EHV assessment. If they're determined as they aren't eligible, then yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Morgan, but I would say that they would go to outreach and try to get access to other housing services.
Yeah, it really depends on what eligibility category they fall under. If they are literally homeless, then plugging in with the homeless service provider, if that's outreach, emergency shelter. And then, if someone's not literally homeless or not at risk or fleeing, or if they don't meet the categories, and just explaining that to them so that they know they wouldn't be eligible for these vouchers. I don't know if that answers.
These vouchers are very specific, so not everybody's going to qualify, even if they would like to have one. They just have to wait till HPHA and the city reopen their waiting list and hope that they're picked for the lottery and then get placed on the waiting list. I mean, that's just like everybody else. That's the answer for voucher, getting a voucher. But these vouchers are specific. They have to meet one of the 4 categories. And so the answer may be, I'm sorry, you cannot, you don't qualify for these. That's
Okay.
the reality of it.
Got it. One more question. I've encountered someone who has an existing open rapid rehousing who was asking about it, but has stated to me that has not seen her case manager in, I want to say, the whole time that she was housed and before she was housed. Who do I refer her to, knowing that she's already has a program? I've referred her multiple times back to her program that she currently is in, but she's not receiving help. Who do I reach out to for that one?
If you like, you could reach out to the CES team and Val, and we can assist and try to figure out what's going on and who her case manager is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then I think
This
Desiree
is-
had a
Sorry, I had my hand up. I just wanted to clarify something. ASI is not all one under one access point. Our access point is our emergency shelter, like Morgan had stated, which is at the Waimanalo Emergency Shelter. So having anyone contact our housing programs or our transitional shelter, that wouldn't be the right place to call or contact. I'll put it in chat for our shelter's contact number.
Thank you. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Morgan, but I think we have the actual access points listed on the Partners in Care website under the CES access points. I can also drop that link in the chat here in just a moment.
Yeah, the on the it's actually on the so and kind of in two places. The CES access points will direct you to the HMIS maps page, which should list all the outreach regions and the access points. And I don't actually know if it's all of them, but I know Michael's been updating and Alex have been updating that map to make sure we've got the right contact information and locations for people. So if you've received an email from them, or if you are an access point and aren't seeing yourself on that map, then I would reach out to the HMIS team.
Thank you. Madison, I think you can continue.
Oh, sorry.
Unless
I think Desiree had a question.
I just wanted to know, is it better for us to print one-sided or two-sided? What is easier way for us to upload it back into the HMIS?
From my experience, it's been easier to print one-sided and upload it that way, just because what ends up happening is that some forms that are landscape in terms of the layout, and some forms that are portrait in terms of the layout don't line up exactly correctly. So there's just been errors with uploading that or with printing it. And then they're different forms too. So say one page or one document has 3 pages and another document has 2 pages, you'll end up with all of those documents on the same forms. And it's hard sometimes to make sure that you're getting all pages of those forms.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions, or did I miss anyone with their hand up?
Did we get the question from the beginning from the gentleman who had to jump off? He asked, I know it's a general question, he had to jump off already, but he asked if the EHV and the Section 8 program, if there's any differences between that, and then are there any term limits for how long a family should be receiving rental assistance from EHV? And then the first initial point of contact for the families to contact the city and county EHV. The last answer would be, for the initial point of contact would be, if the client is calling, they can still contact the city and county and they'll be directed to the access points that are on that map that I just commented in the chat. And then if they're going through the providers, then we would just ask you guys to determine if they're good fits or candidates or eligible for the EHV program, and then go ahead and complete their assessment. And then city and county, did you want to answer the other 2 questions about any differences between EHV and Section 8 program and any term limits for how long they should be receiving?
The differences, there are none. The only differences are eligibility criteria. So for a regular Section 8 voucher, you have to put your name on our waiting list and wait to be called up from the waiting list. And with emergency housing vouchers, there is no waiting list. The referrals come direct through the coordinated entry system. So that's the only real difference. In terms of how much assistance the family qualifies for, it's determined in exactly the same way as with a regular housing choice voucher. The family is going to pay, initially at least, between 30 and 40% of their adjusted monthly income. And the subsidies are exactly the same subsidies that we use for the regular housing choice vouchers. As far as the limit of time that they have to get assistance, I think it's 10 years.
Thank you. I see one more question from Val. The voucher is portable, so yes, they can take it off island or out of state, and they would just contact the public housing authority that they are looking to port out to. And similarly, if they're looking to port in, they would contact the city and county office and they will refer them directly to our team. Any other questions from anyone? Oh, is there a time limit when, I don't know, city and county, is there a time limit for port ins and port outs?
Well, I have to use the voucher before it expires. So, I'll give an example. Let's say I was living in San Diego, California, and I was issued a voucher, and the voucher had 60 days. I had 60 days to find a unit, and on the 50th day, I decided I was going to port to Honolulu. You would only have 10 days left. I guess in that sense there is a limit. There's also a billing limit. So a lot of agencies, they don't have funding, and so when they receive a port in from an outside jurisdiction, they bill the original jurisdiction. And there's a time limit that PHs have to submit a bill, so that becomes a kind of limiting factor too. So yes, there would be a timeline.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I think unless city and county or CES or HMIS team have anything else that they'd like to add, we can go ahead and conclude this meeting. Again, this will be recorded. This is a two different sessions, but they are the same exact training. So the only differences will essentially be the details covered in the question and answer portions of these training sessions. If there are no other questions at this time, we will conclude. You guys can feel free to reach out to myself at Lauren R at partnersincareoahu.org or Madison C at partnersincareoahu.org with any questions that you might think of after. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, City and County, CES, Morgan, and HMIS team.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.